Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to the tier list for patch 2.5b, which includes the release of Caitlyn. Now, as you can see in the tier list, there's quite a lot of champions in the S tier, and I'll kind of explain in depth about that as to why there are so many champions in that tier. But as always, if you enjoy the content on this channel, make sure you leave the video a like, comment down below your thoughts on the tier list, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content as well. But first off, let's take a look at the S plus tier, and we have the lone sum himself. We have Varus up there. I still think Varus is, in my opinion, the best AD carry, but it's very, very close behind by pretty much every single one of these S tier AD carries. Now, the reason why there's so many S tier AD carries is, quite honestly, I can't separate them. It's all very, very situational. It's very, very hard to separate every single one of these AD carries because they're all good in certain situations. You know, it kind of depends on yourself as well, who you feel more comfortable with, who you feel like you can carry more with, because pretty much all these champions in the S tier work completely fine. They can allow you to carry the game. So you got champions like Corki that still works really, really well with the crypt build. You know, you got items like Essence Reaver, Solari Chargeblade that work really, really well for him. Ezreal, a very, very safe AD carry. I can use all his poke early on to poke out the lane, and also use that to scale into late game with the Manimune, with the Trinity Force, and just be a complete force to be reckoned with as well. It's just, Ezreal struggles a little bit in the early game, but as long as he can farm up, he'll be completely fine. You have champions like Xayah, very, very safe AD carry to play, has the root available to her as well, and has her Featherstorm available as like a defensive tool to be able to pretty much dodge any skill shot that you want to in the game, and can pretty much keep you safe by yourself. You have Kai'Sa, even though she received the nerf, she is still really, really strong. She still has that same build that everyone goes all the time, the BF sword, Executioner's Calling Longsword to get your Q evolve as soon as possible. Now, even though it does not do as much damage as before, she still does a lot of damage. She's still a very, very safe champion to play. She still has a lot of mobility with her third ability, be able to turn invisible, and also her ultimate as well. You have Lucian, which has kind of risen up as well ever since his kind of, I guess you could say, buff to his ultimate, even though it didn't really make that much big of a difference. But it's kind of a change in build. You know, you go for the Infinity Edge and the Solari Chargeblade now instead of going for the Essence Reaver, because Essence Reaver has kind of whittled its way down a little bit ever since the recent nerfs a few patches ago. You have Vayne up there as well. Vayne is a very late game scaling AD carry. She kind of struggles in the early game, so you have to be a bit careful when playing her. But when you get into late game, Vayne can be pretty much an unstoppable force. And then you have the Sheriff of Pilt over Caitlyn. Caitlyn, in my opinion, is not the strongest AD carry. I think she kind of struggles because she can't really benefit a lot from the Solari Chargeblade. And that's kind of where, you know, most of these champions come in. You know, you got champions like Vayne, Lucian, Kai'Sa, Xayah, Corki. These all benefit from Solari Chargeblade, and you know that's why the champions are so strong, because of that item. But for Caitlyn, she doesn't really benefit a lot from Solari Chargeblade. You know, you want to get the range from the rapid fire cannon, you want to get the damage from Static Shiv as well, and you can even go items like Storm Rays as well to get the slow. But the problem is, them items are just not as strong as Solari Chargeblade. But as a champion herself, she has the highest base attack range. She doesn't even have the lowest health as well, and she does, I believe she does on PC League. She has one of the lowest healths as well on PC League, but someone told me yesterday that she doesn't have the lowest health on Wild Rift as well. So not only in laning phase can you use her, you know, insane long attack range and the same poke to be able to bully out champions in the laning phase, you can use this into the late game as well and use all her, you know, safe ability to be able to stay back in team fights, use her auto attacks, and use her execute ultimate as well to do a lot of damage. She's just a very, very safe, very, very good champion to pick at the moment. One of them champions that you kind of fall back on when you don't really feel like you can play maybe champions like Vayne because you might struggle in the laning phase, or maybe Ezreal because you can't hit skill shots. You know, Caitlyn has that good balance of both. You know, you don't really have to rely that much on auto attacks. You know, you're strong in the mid game. I mean, you're strong in the early game. You're strong in the late game as well. But yeah, it's, you know, a very, very good champion to play, a very, very fun champion that you should definitely all add to your champion pool. I could maybe move Caitlyn down to A+ with Draven, but I don't know. We'll keep her an S for now because she is relatively good in the S tier. I would say that she's maybe a bit below the other champions in S tier, but she's still quite strong, and I still feel like she should definitely live up there. Then even though, right, so now we've kind of opened up the A+ tier. I've moved Draven now up to the A+ tier. The reason for that is that Draven didn't really fit in the A tier very well. You know, you got champions like Akshan, Tristana, and Jinx, but in my opinion, Draven is better than all of them champions. The only problem was that Draven didn't really do well and didn't really fit in the same tier as Lucian and Vayne before. So I had Lucian and Vayne in A+ tier before, and then I had Draven down the A tier with Akshan, Tristana, and Jinx. Now, Draven is better than all them champions, but not better than, you know, the likes of Lucian and Vayne, etc. But now that they've moved up a tier, I can now move Draven up a tier as well into the A+ tier. So Draven is still an early game beast. He still does, you know, insane amounts of damage in the early game. And if you can get an early game lead as well, you can easily solo carry pretty much any single game as well. The only struggle with Draven is that he is quite hard to play. So you do have to practice quite a lot, you know, with catching his axes, making sure that you know what you're doing with Draven to be able to carry team fights. But he doesn't take too long to learn. Can still carry with him. I can't carry with him because I absolutely suck at the champion. But that's probably something for another story or another video that we can talk about in another one. But yeah, moving on to that A tier, you have Akshan down the A tier. He did recently get a nerf, but I feel like his nerf wasn't really too much. But Akshan is a much better mid or top lane champion. I say top lane. It's pretty much only Nightmare that plays in top lane, but he plays him pretty well, to be fair. But in the mid lane, Akshan does really, really well. You know, his trades and everything are just absolutely disgusting. He has his shield as well. He has his, you know, high mobility as well. And even his passive from his W as well, being able to revive teammates as well, is just absolutely disgusting. It's just that in the bot lane, he can't really utilize his, you know, his aggression too much or his poke too much down the bot lane, because, you know, if he does overstep, then he can get caught out by supports, and he doesn't really have that 1v1 potential down the bot lane as he does maybe in the mid lane. That's why, in my opinion, he's better in the mid lane, because he can use that 1v1 and use that power spike in the early game, be able to kind of trade against the enemy champions and, you know, get that advantage, as I've already mentioned. Tristana, still a very, very hard champion to play. Hasn't really changed too much. Again, another champion that doesn't really benefit a lot from Solari Chargeblade. You have to go for kind of the same build as what you do on Caitlyn. You know, Stack Shiv, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon. It's just she does a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. Tristana does do a lot of damage, but she's just very, very hard to play. And it's very hard on mobile to kind of, you know, focus on auto-attacking the right target with the explosive bombs, her third ability. But that, in my opinion, is why Tristana is not really up there. Jinx is just a worse, you know, Vayne hyper carry at the moment. Jinx doesn't really do as much damage as like Vayne would do as a hyper carry, or even Caitlyn as well now. She does have quite a lot of range, and she can do well if she does get a kill or assist, but it's just trying to get that first kill or assist, you know. If she does get excited, if she does get that kill or assist, she can be, you know, very, very good in them team fights, being able to use that rocket form to kind of auto attack from range as well. You can use items like Runa's Hurricane as well, which can allow you to spread damage, so you can try and get that takedown as soon as possible, so you can get excited, you can get that crazy attack speed, and you can carry the team fights. But I feel like Jinx is like, she's up there, but she's not like, you know, one of the best, I would say. Like I said, I feel like Vayne and Caitlyn are much better hyper carries than Jinx herself. Then you move down to the B tier. All these champions just suck, basically. That's just the bottom line of it, really. I mean, Ashe has been... I'll get to Ashe in a second. Ashe is a very, very weird one. But Senna, don't play her as AD carry. Only play her as fasting Senna, which basically means you kind of play her as support Senna, where you have a kind of a tank in the lane with you, but that tank is taking the farm. This is AD carry Senna. The amount of soul drop rate that got nerfed on AD carry Senna is just absolutely crazy. You know, you can't get any souls now from basically farming minions. So you don't want to farm minions. You don't want to play AD carry Senna. Trust me, it will help you a lot not playing AD carry Senna. Either play her support or play her in a fasting Senna lane, maybe with a duo. With someone that you know can play fasting Senna well, because I wouldn't really recommend fasting Senna in solo queue, because not a lot of people will understand what you mean by fasting Senna. But obviously, if you watch my videos, if you watch any other content creators or YouTubers, you will understand what fasting Senna means, or even if you watch pro play as well, because it happens a lot in pro play. But Still, at the moment, she just, as an AD carry, she's not up there because her soul drop rate is a lot less. Jhin, hurts me to say it, but Jhin still sucks, unfortunately. Just doesn't do enough damage at all. The items don't really benefit him. His fourth shot damage is terrible. His ultimate damage is also terrible. I don't know. His damage in general is just not that great, unfortunately, at the moment. Now, Ashe is an interesting one. Now, Ashe gets a lot of play in NA specifically, and it's going to be really interesting if Tribe actually play her tomorrow, which is going to be in the Horizon Cup, which is starting tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss out on that. It's going to start at, at 8 a.m. No, 8 a.m. That's Arcane. 11 a.m. UK time is going to be the start of Horizon Cup. You also have Arcane before that at 8 a.m. as well. So yes, tomorrow's a pretty crazy day. I have to wake up early for that one. But yeah, Ashe gets a lot of played in Horizon Cup. Now, pro play Ashe is a lot better than solo queue Ashe. Solo queue Ashe cannot carry games. The main reason being is that when you're playing solo queue, you're obviously playing with 4 random teammates. So you can't use the utility of Ashe very well with 4 random teammates, because the 4 random teammates might not know, how to engage with Ashe's ultimate, if you land it, for example. But in pro play, Ashe can work very, very well. You're all 5 of you are communicating. You've been practicing together. You understand your limits. You know what to do. You can call out for your ultimate at times. That's why Ashe is getting played a lot more in pro play, is that she acts as more of like this utility support, utility AD carry, that can, that can help other champions, like maybe the mid laner, the top laner, even a jungler, to be able to secure them kills if you can use the ultimate correctly. Now, that's why Ashe is good in pro play, but like I said, you can't really do that in solo queue because you might have some sort of miscommunication in terms of pings and everything like that. You can't talk to each other. There's loads of things as to why Ashe is not as great in solo queue as in pro play. And then Misfortune. I've tried Misfortune so many times. It's so hard because, Season 0, Season 1, it was a life of Misfortune and Jhin. But now, ever since their nerfs, and ever since all the item nerfs and new items coming in as well, new crit items, they pretty much just plummet down to the bottom. Which is kind of sad. Oh my god, excuse me. But yeah, it's kind of sad because I enjoyed playing Jhin. I enjoyed playing Misfortune, even though they were completely busted at the time of Season 0 and Season 1. They were still really fun to play. But yeah, at the moment, they just kind of sucked. But anyway, that is the AD carry tier list. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Now to move on to the support tier list. Now, the support tier list is quite an interesting one. Oh, before I forget, I'm going to be adding Ziggs into this tier list probably next patch. I want to practice Ziggs down in the bot lane to kind of see how he feels. But that's why I haven't added him here. But I know that a few tier lists add Ziggs in the bot lane, which is fair enough. I wouldn't really add Seraphine in the bot lane because she doesn't really work as solo queue. But Ziggs bot lane and maybe even Orianna bot lane can work as well, which I'll probably add them in the next tier list when I get to practice them a lot. Now, support hasn't really changed that much either. Support, Nami and Lulu, still insanely strong. Both of them have insane healing, insane shielding. Nami has her ultimate and her bubble, which is great crowd control, and definitely in terms of team fights. Lulu as well, her ultimate being able to give allies health, her shielding, her movement speed, even her polymorph as well could be really good if assassins are trying to jump onto your AD carry. Yeah, these 2 champions are just really, really strong, insanely strong at the moment, and closely followed behind by Janna as well. I just don't feel like Janna can carry as hard in solo queue as like Nami and Lulu, for example. Nami is the best in solo queue by far. Then followed by Lulu, then followed by Janna. Janna is more of like a peeling support, but you can't really do any sort of plays that can really benefit your team or, help you carry and everything like that. But she's still really, really good. You have your tornado, you have your ultimate to knock out enemies from your team. You have your shield as well, which can be really, really good, which can help you a lot in the laning phase. But like I said, in my opinion, I don't know. In my opinion, she's just not as good as Nami and Lulu. But you can still make her work as well. She'll still be really, really good. Brom, still insanely strong. One of the craziest crowd control abilities with his passive, being able to auto-attack multiple allies and being able to land the stun basically constantly throughout the whole team fight. You know, you have his Q, you have his W, which can give teammates armor and magic resist. You have your E as well, which can pretty much block any single projectile in the entire game. And you have your ultimate as well, which is one of the best team fight ultimates in the whole game. So Brom, still insanely strong. His laning phase is still insanely strong as well. Brom Lucian is a really, really great lane if you want to give that a try, because the double shot of Lucian works with Brom's passive really, really well. So you might want to give that a try. Thresh also up in the S tier, has received quite a few buffs recently. Thresh is quite an insane champion. Very, very good for solo queue, like insanely, insanely good for a solo queue, actually. One of them champions that could definitely carry a lot in solo queue. You know, you can use your lantern to get junglers to lane quicker and use your lantern to kind of make plays. You can land your hook. You've got your box as well that can pretty much zone anyone on the enemy team and can be used aggressively as well. But yeah, any sort of, you know, hook champions, except for Blitzcrank, which I don't even know why Blitzcrank is not in this tier list. I actually don't know where he is down here. But yeah, I don't know why Blitzcrank is not on the tier list. He is here. There you go. Blitzcrank lived there. I don't know why Blitzcrank wasn't on the tier list in the first place. But yeah, unless you're playing Blitzcrank, Thresh is fine. Thresh is the best hooker in the game. Blitzcrank, as you can see, down in the C tier. Yeah, we'll get to Blitzcrank later on. Rakan actually moving up now. Rakan has obviously received quite a lot of buffs, and people are enjoying Rakan a lot more now and kind of understanding his limits. Now, there's so many different builds, so many different rune choices, so many different, you know, play styles of Rakan. You know, you can go like what's that rune called? You can go summon Airy with like a full AP build if you want your shields to be stronger, to want your damage to be larger. You can go for that. I don't really like that personally. I personally like the aftershock, sort of, I guess you call it semi-tank, where you go like Rod of Ages into full tank afterwards. So you have a little bit of damage, but you are going defenses. So when you do land that crowd control, you know, you can land a lock up, you can land a knock up, you can land the ultimate as well, and you can get that aftershock rune off. So you can tank a lot of damage when you're engaging, so you're not going to get completely one shot. Because the problem is when you jump in as full AP Rakan, you're pretty much just dead. You know, if you jump too far forward and you can't E away with all its mobility, you're just stuck and you just can't play the game anymore. So, and you're just dead. So that's why I kind of like the semi sort of tank build with aftershock. So you can do a little bit of damage with Rod of Ages, but you can also survive a lot of damage as well. Because as a support, your main purpose is not to do damage. Your main purpose is to support and help your team carry, which Rakan can do, you know, with his ultimate, with his knock-up. If you can land like a 5-man ultimate with a 5-man knock-up on top of that as well, you can pretty much carry the entire team fight. And that's why, you know, for me, Rakan has moved up into the S tier. Brand, I still feel like, is a very, very strong support. Again, one of them solo queue carry supports that you can play on top of Senna as well, which I get to Senna in a second. But yeah, with Brand, you can build damage. You can play him as a support as well. He's not like your traditional support. He's more of like I would say damage sort of carry support. But he's still really, really strong. You know, his poke is still really, really strong. You can proc his passive as well. His ultimate is one of the craziest ultimates in the entire game. Especially that you can bounce it now off yourself as well, which I didn't know got added into PC League quite a while ago. It shows you how long ago I played PC League. But yeah, Brand is still insanely strong. Leona as well, still a great support as well. Leona has a lot of crowd control and a lot of tankiness to her kit, I guess you can say. You know, she can jump in, she can use all her crowd control, and she can survive for a long amount of time as well, which I think is a really good thing. The only problem with Leona is that she's very, very single target focused, which can also be a good thing at the same time, but most of the time it's a pretty, I would say, bad thing, because Wild Rifts are so oriented around 5v5 team fights, around the objectives. Leona doesn't really do very well in them 5 versus 5 team fights. You know, she normally benefits from, trying to pick off an enemy. If an enemy's by themselves, you can use your ultimate and kind of jump onto them. But if there's more people around them, they can kind of, zone the rest of your team off. So even though you're jumping in with your ultimate, the rest of your team can't really follow up because there's still a whole enemy team behind them. But sometimes your solar flare, your ultimate can hit multiple allies at once. So you can try and use that to your benefit as well. But still, she's still really, really strong. Really, really strong, especially in the laning phase as well. Moving on to Senna. Again, more of a carry-oriented support with Brand. has a lot of shielding, has a lot of healing, also can do a lot of damage as well with collecting souls. The main thing about Sender that you want to do is obviously collect them souls. Obviously, collecting the souls allows you to deal, I believe it's more crit, allow you to have more range as well. So you want to go for either like a utility sort of build where you go like Black Cleaver, Iceborne Gauntlet, or Serrader's Grudge, whatever, you know, one you want to go for the slows. You know, go for Executioner's Calling to reduce the healing. Kind of go for that utility build. Or if you want to, you know, be a more solo carry champion, or solo Q carry champion, I should say, you can go for like a more damage build. You can go for like Manamune into Full Lethality, like Dustblade, Serrader's Grudge, Ghostblade as well. You know, all them sort of items that can allow you to deal more damage. Obviously, you'll be a bit squishy on. You won't be very useful for your team, but you might be able to solo carry the game. Alistar, moving down to 18 now. Alistar has moved down for me. Alistar's still struggling at the moment. He was kind of okay in a situation where it's, you know, you can kind of, you know, play aggressive against these, you know, support champions like Nami, like Lulu, and like Janna, you know, these enchanters. But now with Caitlyn in the game, Alistar just can't play the game. There's no way that Alistar can get into range now to combo anyone because of Caitlyn. Caitlyn is insane, you know, what she can do against certain champions like Alistar that's melee in the lane. You know, she could even do well against Brom as well, you know, because of her high attack range. But I mean, it's not just because of, you know, Caitlyn that why Alistar has moved down. You know, like I said, he can play aggressive in lane against these support, you know, sort of enchanted champions, and he can try to carry in the late game, but because of all this crowd control that's in the game at the moment from like Nami, you know, you got Lulu that can help survive your team. You got Janna as well that can disengage. Brom that can disengage. You know, Thresh can disengage. Rakan can disengage. All this disengage that you have to this heavy engaged champion like Alistar, it's just very, very hard to play him at the moment. It's very, very hard to carry with him because, you know, sometimes when you jump in, again, it's the whole thing kind of in terms of, you know, being that sort of, you know, solo queue player where sometimes if you engage with Alistar, the rest of your team might not follow up. So you're kind of by yourself. You're stuck. So you're dead, basically. But the kind of situations like that as well. But yeah, unfortunately, Alistar has moved down the tier. But yeah, I completely forgot Galio, actually. Galio is sitting up in the A+ tier now. So I kind of swapped Galio and Alistar. Galio is basically a better Alistar right now in terms of engages and in terms of, you know, disengage as well and peeling. Galio is very good as well, especially with his ultimate. You can also use his taunt as well. So if someone jumps onto your AD carry, you can kind of knock them up with your third ability. You can taunt them as well, or you can even zone them as well with the ultimate. Because if the enemy champion tries to jump on your AD carry, even with Galio ultimate, they're going to be knocked up, they're going to be taunted, and it's going to be really, really hard for them to actually get onto your AD carry. That's why Galio has moved up into A+ tier. He's actually quite a good support as well. I definitely recommend picking him up. Moving back down to the A, I've already obviously mentioned Alistar, Sona, Seraphine, and Lux. Now, all these three champions kind of have the same purpose. They have a lot of healing, a lot of shielding, but they don't really bring that much to the team compared to like Janna, Lulu, and Nami. Firstly, Sona. Sona is a very, very, very late game champion. Kind of really does struggle in the early game. You know, you can poke a little bit. She doesn't really do the most damage in terms of poke. She does have a lot of healing, but she runs out of mana very, very, very quickly. So you need to make sure you build Tear of the Goddess first, which is going to delay your power spikes of your other items. But if you can get Sona into the mid, into the late game, you know, get Sona 2 items, give her the odd sensor, give her the stuff foam water, give her the harmonic echo as well. In the late game, she can keep spamming spells, she can keep being a force to be reckoned with, and you could definitely carry team fights in the late game just by spamming abilities. You know, your healing, your movement speed, even your ultimate as well. If you can get a good crescendo, you can get a really, really nice ultimate off. But, like I said, in the early game is where she really, really struggles. And you kind of have to give up lane priority completely, which is going to be a struggle, especially if your jungler is trying to get, you know, Scuttle Crab. If you're trying to, you know, focus on that first dragon fight, which Sona's not very good at because she can run out of mana. But when it comes to that maybe second, even third dragon fight, when she does have a lot of mana, when she is stacking that tier, she can definitely be very, very strong. And you can stack tier very, very quickly as well with Sona because you could spam your abilities quite a lot. Moving on to Seraphine. Now, Seraphine kind of has the same sort of situation in the laning phase. She does run out of mana quite quickly. The reason why Seraphine is still in the A tier and not like in the B tier, for example, is because she has got such good abilities. You have your second ability that can shield the whole team, and the radius is crazy big as well. It's bigger than Sona's shielding as well, which is quite strong. And the good thing is that Seraphine's is healing. I mean, shielding and not healing, which means that even if even if your champions or even if your team are full HP, you can still give them an extra shield on top of that. And obviously, it doesn't last forever, so you need to make sure you time it correctly, but it still can work really well. She has a lot of crowd control as well, Seraphine, which is why she's still up there as well. You have your second ability. If you have the Encore version, allows you to shoot out your second ability twice, which means you can root enemies in place. Her ultimate as well is insanely strong. Really strong, actually. If you can ultimate across the whole team, then you can pretty much charm everyone on the enemy team, and it can be really strong. But yeah, I mean, she's still a great champion. I wouldn't really build her full AP, but you can build her full AP if you want to. I wouldn't really recommend it. I'd more recommend building her, support, Staff of Flowing Water, Ardent Sensor, Athene's, Harmonic, Death Cap, items like that. More of a support build. And that brings me to Lux as well. Again, the same with Lux. You want to make sure that you build her with a support build like Harmonic Echo and things like that. But Lux has just got so many nerfs recently. I say recently, a few patches ago now. Lux got so many nerfs. Her mana is a real struggle at the moment in the laning phase. I feel like with Lux now, you have to build tier. Even though it does, again, delay you. But the problem is that Lux doesn't have the crazy late game scaling that Sona does. That is the problem. But if you do build a little bit of damage, you can do, you can do a lot of damage with your combo. If you do land your root with your first ability and combo that with your third ability and your ultimate, you can do a lot of damage. But yeah, I wouldn't really say she is the best at the moment. Soraka doesn't offer too much. She gets countered by one item straight away. If anyone on your enemy team, builds Executioner's Calling, Banshee's Veil, Morellonomicon, no, it's not Morellonomicon, Oblivion Orb, which is all tier 2 items, by the way, so they all only cost like 1,000 gold, which in Wild Rift is nothing. Soraka just becomes... okay, I wouldn't really say useless. I was about to say useless. She doesn't become useless, but she doesn't become very good. Because Soraka's main purpose comes from healing. Her second ability is healing. Her ultimate is healing. But if anyone on the enemy team builds, something like Executioner's Calling, Oblivion Orb, or or Bramble Vest, it reduces the healing of anyone on your team, either from yourself or from anyone else on your team. So if you're trying to heal someone on the front line, but the enemy team has a Xayah that has Executioner's Calling early on and attacks that champion, that means your healing is going to be reduced. It doesn't matter if you've got Ardent Sensor, if you've got any other items that can increase your healing and shielding, it will still get reduced because of Executioner's Calling. Which is why Soraka is, in my opinion, not very good at the moment. She did get a buff, but then she did get a nerf as well. The buff kind of helped her a little bit, and I did move her up a tier, but then she's moved back down a tier as well ever since. And Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank just sucks. Don't play this champion. I would only recommend playing this champion if you know how to hook. If you can't hook with Blitzcrank, don't play him. He's not very good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That was my tier list for patch 2.5b. Obviously, no balance changes were made in patch 2.5b. That's why I didn't make a video on it. They only were bringing out a few skins and everything as well. But because Horizon Cup starts tomorrow, they didn't want to do any crazy shenanigans and everything like that with balance changes. But yeah, that's my support tier list. That's my AD carry tier list. Again, my tier list is not 100% perfect. You can probably carry with more champions than what I say. You can obviously play any single champion you want in the game, whatever you feel comfortable with. Don't let this influence you in terms of your solo queue games. But yeah, I thought I'd do this tier list just to kind of help you out and kind of give you my opinion where the meta is at the moment. And it kind of helps you to what we might see tomorrow as well in the Horizon Cup. I would be very surprised if we see anyone below the A+ tier in the Horizon Cup tomorrow on the AD carry tier list. You might see an odd Draven here and there, but other than that, we'll see everyone in the S and even S+ tier as well. S+ tier for sure. Varus will be the most contested pick tomorrow at the Horizon Cup. Quote me on that. But yeah, anyway, I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning into the video. As always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you all very soon. Peace.